much, and it's a privilege to be here in front of this audience and this panel. I was going to show a presentation, but I think it's a bit late and it will take too much time for us to go through a presentation of slides. What I'll do is I'll just go through some of the points that came to me while we were discussing today's issues. And mainly we are talking about big data in terms of identity. We are looking at where the question of identity of a citizen fits into the services that are offered by the government, so that the services are targeted towards the citizens. I represent only one of the services that the government gives, and that is transportation. Transportation of passengers and transportation of freight. And both of these the government provides to its citizens as a service which has to be offered in an unbiased manner. We in the railways are partly commercial also in our approach. We are not dependent on government subsidies, for example. There are no direct subsidies. So we have to maintain a balance between commercial decisions as well as ensuring that there is inclusive service delivery across the country and all its citizens. One of the issues that comes up today, because today, as you know, passenger travel, if you try to get a ticket in a train, you have to, especially if you are traveling in the peak season, you have to reserve well in advance. Perhaps you have to reserve 4 months in advance or 3 months in advance, and still you find that there are no seats available. So there is a shortage of accommodation that we reserve, and that is where there is a lot of fraud possible. So there are instances of agents fraudulently buying tickets and then getting other people to travel against those tickets. So that is the immediate direct requirement of identity. So what we ensure right now is that we ask all the travelers to carry some sort of identity, a document that proves the identity, and there are a few 4 or 5 documents that are specified for this. But this is one area in which the Aadhaar identity can be used, and we are actively looking at that. Can we directly ask you to give your Aadhaar number, and then on the train, can we authenticate that Aadhaar number to make sure that the right person is traveling? Because today we carry about 16 lakh passengers every day who go by reserved accommodation. On the other hand, there is a whole world of people traveling unreserved. That is about more than 1 crore tickets a day are sold for unreserved travel. That is, you just get on the train and you travel. So there is a huge population there. That is underserved compared to the people going by reserved accommodation, because that is relatively underserved. Because there is no real way to find out how many people are going, what is the capacity that is being used. You can just get onto a train and travel. How much overcrowding is there? So that 90%, to serve that 90%, we have to make the ticketing easier for them. The process of buying a ticket. How do you buy a ticket? You have to stand in a queue. 1 crore people standing in the queue is quite a few numbers, and requires a lot of large number of counters and overcrowding and problematic situations. So can we serve them by giving them the option of buying their ticket over a mobile phone? That is another of the areas that we are looking at very seriously. Can we give them a ticket on their mobile phone, but not over a smartphone? Because that is easier to do comparatively. You can make a system by which on my smartphone, on my Apple iPhone, I can buy a ticket. You can just have an app. But the people that we want to serve don't carry iPhones. We want to serve people with normal phones, with a Nokia entry-level phone. So that is where the challenge lies. So we are looking very seriously at USSD-based, USSD-based applications can work, and or SMS-based applications. Can you, on the run while you are running to board a Bombay local, can you buy your ticket? But can you be in a situation where you don't buy your ticket when you see the TTE coming? So you should prevent that. You shouldn't be that when I see that I'm about to be caught, that's the time when I start buying the ticket. You know? So how do you do that? So different mechanisms for that. One mechanism suggested is that you go on the station, and while you are at the station on the platform, you see a series of random numbers on a big screen, and then when you are buying your ticket on your mobile phone, you enter that random number, and that acts as an authentication. And other such things, maybe the tower of the mobile phone is what acts as an authentication device. Another issue that comes up for these sort of service delivery mechanisms is the coverage through the mobile network. In big cities, we take it for granted. Coverage on mobile network, all cities are covered, but not in rural areas. It is not very good. GPRS connectivity particularly is not very good in rural areas. Sometimes bandwidths are very low. So those are issues which may come, financial inclusion, banking, etc. in rural areas also. But we have seen it because on the train we have certain systems that we were trying out, and we realized that while the train is moving, GPRS is a very erratic mechanism for having any significant application running. Lastly, of course, if we have a lot of data about movements and travel, and whenever we book a ticket, we give our names. So our names are theoretically in the database. Right now, the railways doesn't track individual movements. We don't track individual movements. We keep all that data. We don't even analyze it to the extent that we track individual movements. But suppose we do. We have the tools available. Can I track X's movements? Where does that fine line of privacy get crossed? If I track his movements and I give him a freebie, he's happy. But if I track his movement for other purposes, at what stage does he feel that his privacy is being invaded? And again, as was discussed before, what about security concerns? Today we are tracking people and we want to identify people because of frauds while buying tickets. But if we create sufficient capacity, that there is enough capacity, then I don't have to get a person's name. Anyone can go and sit in a train and travel. But with today's security environment, I like to track everybody who's traveling anyway, so that I know who's on my train, who's on this expensive piece of asset, that belongs to the citizens of the country. Do I have criminals there? Do I have a man with a bomb? It all belongs to us, to the public. We don't want people with the potential to damage stuff equipment that we have paid for. But again, so privacy, as Mr. Sani pointed out, privacy comes into everything. All government services that are delivered, innocuous ones such as travel also. And then the last point I wanted to make was targeted services. How much can we target to an individual without losing the overall fairness that we have to? We have to provide services to all citizens in a fair manner. It should be an even-handed service delivery. So if you target it too much, are we becoming less even-handed in our approach? Especially for services, these are transportation is a service that we want to let everybody have in equal measure. We don't want to say at the below poverty level people should have a preference in transportation. We don't want the rich people also to have a preference in transportation. We want it to be available to everyone. Whoever wants to avail the service should be able to avail the service. So where do we cross the fine line between fairness and marketing schemes or targeted service delivery here in our case? These are some of the issues that we have to grapple with. And all of them, unfortunately or fortunately, all of them with a very large clientele that we have. We move, as I told you, about 1.5 crore people every day. So there's a lot of data there. And another perspective that I would have shared in my presentation, which I have not done deliberately, is that if we want to create capacity, this is the example of one government department, there are other government departments like this. If we have to create capacity in these departments, and if we want to improve efficiency, then the amount of information that we have to process to make sure that we squeeze the last drop out of whatever we have, the capacities required are huge. 60,000 kilometers of track. We have route kilometers. If you count the individual track kilometers, it is about 120,000. It's huge. Each kilometer of track today costs 2 crore rupees. So, number of assets, 8,000 locomotives, more than 2.5 lakh wagons. Each locomotive has 16,000 parts. Each coach has 7,000 parts. We have 55,000 coaches in which people sit. We are short of them. So we have to squeeze efficiency out of it. If we do that, and if we do that through information and better information systems, we are dealing with a huge amount of data. So, information systems in government have to tackle that. Whatever tools are available, they have to be used. With that, I think we are reaching the end of our session here. I'd like to thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mathur.